Okay. I'll get the we'll get the theory bit out of the way first, so we can move on to the more useful, because I do think there's actually some useful, practicable, and applicable things that people can do in response to, well, this issue that you're talking about, and talking about very keenly. First, the theory, and a minor objection, and that is that this is probably more by way of clarification, because I don't think we actually substantially disagree on this point. Um, Prediction at the mass scale is relatively simple. Um, it's relatively easy, to the point where I would go on to say that this neurologically intensive system of interpretation of the predictability of human decision is, I mean, it's all well and good, and it's very it's interesting in the generalities of the why. But in terms of the practical what, it really isn't necessary. Um, the aberrant factors of individual human behavior at a large scale, at a very large scale, generally factor out. Generally. And the more people that the more people that are involved, the more people that are involved, the more diverse the cultural representation of this sampling, and the longer period of time. That's key. That is absolute key. The longer the longer the sample period of time, the more predictable this becomes. Simply because you have more action in operation, wherein homogeneity reimposes itself. It's actually not unlike, complete complete tangent topically, but actually a really useful metaphor for this. A friend of Nate's, who I had the pleasure of meeting, and we've since talked, not nearly as much as I would like. Really clever guy, was telling me about an emerging technique in stellar photography that basically enables a user at home with a $30 webcam and a maybe $200 telescope to take more accurate stellar photographs than anything but the most recent, the most cutting edge of stellar photographic equipment. I mean, we're talking about people with less than $300 worth of hardware able to produce photographs of competing and, in some cases, better clarity than Hubble, even after they fixed the lens. Using a webcam to take several thousand shots, and you aggregate them together. And what this does is the constants in this photograph, the constants in this photograph are present in every photograph, but the variables, the noise, the light pollution, atmospheric disturbances, that kind of thing, those are in constant flux. So the individual photo is not very clear, but you aggregate them together, and you use each photograph as a filter for the next photograph, all the way through a series of a few thousand, and you wind up with a picture of such clarity, of such clarity, that again it rivals extremely expensive equipment, extremely expensive and extremely specialized equipment, and people are doing this at home. It's actually a godsend for the astronomy community, because all of a sudden there's a technique that allows them to actually draw useful information from the enthusiast and from the hobbyist. So that's similar to the principle that I'm trying to point out here. Any one of those individual photographs is going to be blurry as hell. almost unusable. And for that matter, these photographs are useless for determining position, for determining atmospheric conditions. They are useless for determining variations in output on these stars. They don't really tell us anything anything useful about the way that the thing changes, or the way that our relationship to the thing changes. But they're fantastically useful for providing us a good, clear picture of the constants. So, in coming to prediction in human behavior, and when we're talking about economics and politics, prediction is everything. They only need to know an accurate enough picture of generalities to produce a profitable return. Is something that really scares me about some of these ideas is that many people run towards hard determinism from this. Well, they have these systems that can predict human behavior, so on and so forth. Well, guess what? So can a keen student of history. If anything, just in terms of system of prediction, I think neuroeconomics. I think they would. I think we would be doing better if we were instead applying large number theory and looking at occurred data rather than trying to come up with some sort of causal explanation. But anyway, point being, these systems do not do what they claim. And the observable successes from that kind of system. Well, frankly, it's easy to succeed at something that is easy. And predicting the actions of very large numbers of people over a relatively long duration of time, long compared to the decision-making process itself, is, again, relatively easy because aberrant factors tend to work themselves out. It doesn't really lend you any predictive power. And for that matter, it doesn't let us do anything that, I don't know, wasn't already a formalized subdiscipline of history in the 6th century in Mesoamerica. So, and that's the thing, is this is not really anything new. Being aware that in mass, in total, there are generalities, and that these generalities are predictable, and that these generalities are explicitly appealed to, and that there is tremendous power to be gained in circumventing individual deviation and individual variation and trying to encourage you to act towards the generality. That's a powerful idea. That's a very powerful idea. And I think, once again, I'm probably going to make this another two-parter. I'll talk a little bit about a few things that the individual can do kind of as thought experiments or lifestyle experiments. Lifestyle experiments. To change their perspective in such a way that the rabbit that is hidden in the hat is visible.